Dr. Crixvell stood before the holographic display, her four eyes blinking in rapid succession. The data scrolling across the screen made no sense. None at all. She had spent 300 cycles studying planetary biology across 17 star systems, and nothing had prepared her for this. "This cannot be correct," she said, her translator implant converting her clicking sounds into Federation standard. "Run the analysis again." Her assistant, a young Velthari named Prax, manipulated the controls with his tentacles. "I have run it 47 times, Doctor. The results remain the same." Crixvell turned back to the display. The planet floating there in blue and green should not exist. Or rather, it should exist, but nothing should live on it. The atmospheric readings alone were enough to make her skin plates tighten with fear. 78% nitrogen, she read aloud. 21% oxygen. "Oxygen is highly reactive," Prax said, his voice trembling. "It destroys organic tissue. How can anything breathe it?" "They do not just breathe it," Crixvell replied, zooming in on the planet's surface. "They need it. Their blood carries it throughout their bodies. They die without it within minutes." The silence that followed was heavy. Both scientists knew what oxygen did. Every child in the Federation learned about the Great Fire Wars of Veltha Prime, where a single oxygen leak had destroyed an entire continent. Oxygen was a weapon, a destroyer, and these creatures called humans breathed it like it was nothing. "Show me the gravity readings," Crixvell ordered. The display shifted. Numbers appeared. Crixvell felt her digestive pouch contract. 1.0 standard gravity units, she whispered. That is crushing. Most Federation species cannot survive above 0.4 units, Prax confirmed. Extended exposure to anything above 0.6 causes organ failure. And yet they jump, they run, they carry heavy objects. They do this thing they call sports, where they deliberately throw themselves at each other at high speeds. Crixvell pulled up video footage captured by long-range probes. On the screen, humans were playing something called football. They crashed into each other with bone-breaking force, then simply stood up and did it again. This is recreational activity for them. Prax made a sound of distress. "Doctor, I must sit down." "Continue reviewing the data," Crixvell said, though she understood his reaction. "We have been given a task by the High Council. They wish to establish contact with these humans. They wish to invite them to join the Federation. We must understand what we are dealing with." "With respect, Doctor, I am beginning to wonder if we should be inviting them anywhere. Perhaps we should be hiding from them." Crixvell did not respond. She was looking at the geological data now. Earth had active volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes that spanned entire ocean regions. The planet was constantly trying to kill everything on it, and yet life flourished. Not just flourished, thrived. There were millions of species, from microscopic bacteria to creatures the size of small spacecraft. And the humans sat at the top of this death world's food chain, not because they were the strongest or fastest, not because they had claws or fangs or natural armor. They were soft, squishy creatures with no natural weapons at all. They had risen to dominance through pure, stubborn refusal to die. "Pull up their medical data," Crixvell said. The holographic display shifted again. Now it showed human biology in detail. Crixvell studied the information with growing disbelief. "They heal," she said slowly. "When they are damaged, their bodies repair themselves." "All species heal to some degree," Prax pointed out. "Not like this. Look here." Crixvell highlighted a section of the data. "They can lose significant amounts of blood and survive. Their bones break and regrow stronger. They can lose entire organs and continue to function. Some of them have had their hearts stop completely, been declared dead by their medical professionals, and then returned to life. That is impossible. And yet the data does not lie." Crixvell moved to another section. "Their immune systems are perhaps the most terrifying thing about them. They are engaged in constant warfare with microscopic invaders. Billions of organisms live inside each human, and the human body treats this as normal. Some of these organisms are beneficial. Others try to kill the human. The battle never ends from the moment of birth until death. Prax's tentacles had gone pale. They are walking war zones. Precisely, and this is perhaps why they are so resilient. Their bodies are trained from conception to fight, to survive, to adapt. Crixvel paused on a particular entry. There is a medical procedure they perform called vaccination. They deliberately inject weakened or dead pathogens into their children so their immune systems can learn to fight them. They poison their own young. To make them stronger, yes. The room fell silent again. In the Federation, children were protected above all else. The idea of deliberately harming them, even to help them, was unthinkable. But humans did it routinely, and their children were better for it. "I need to take a break," Prax said. "This information is difficult to process." Crixvel nodded. "Go, but return in 1/4 cycle. We have much more to review." As her assistant left, Crixvel remained staring at the display. She had been a scientist for most of her long life. She had seen wonders across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared her for humans. They were impossible. Everything about them defied the accepted understanding of how life should work. They breathed poison. They lived under crushing gravity. They survived on a planet that seemed determined to destroy them. And not only did they survive, they laughed. They played games. They created art and music. They loved and fought and dreamed. The High Council wanted to make contact. They saw a potential ally, a species that could help expand Federation influence into unexplored regions of space. Crixvel saw something different. She saw a species forged in the fires of an impossible world, a species that had been fighting for survival since before they could walk upright, a species that had looked at their deadly, hostile planet and said, "This is ours, and we will not yield." The Federation had no idea what it was about to encounter. The Federation ship Serenity of Stars hung in orbit around Earth's moon. It was considered a safe distance, far enough that the humans could not easily reach them, close enough to conduct observations. The crew of 400 souls watched their screens with a mixture of fear and fascination. Captain Yorl9 stood on the bridge, his crystalline body refracting the soft light of the control panels. He had commanded ships for 50 cycles, but nothing in his training had prepared him for this mission. "Status report," he said, his voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The human satellites have detected us," his communications officer reported. "They are attempting to send signals, basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers." "Standard first contact protocol," Yorl9 observed. "They understand that mathematics is universal. They have also pointed several of their weapons platforms at us." The captain's body flickered with concern. "Weapons, already?" "They appear to be nuclear missiles, Captain. Primitive but effective." From the science station, Dr. Crixvel spoke up. "This is consistent with their behavior patterns, Captain. Humans are simultaneously curious and defensive. They reach out with one hand while preparing to strike with the other." "That seems contradictory," Yorl9 said. "Everything about humans is contradictory." Crixvel manipulated her console, bringing up a display for the entire bridge crew to see. "They are capable of tremendous violence and breathtaking kindness. They destroy their environment while simultaneously trying to protect it. They wage war against each other while preaching peace." "How did such a species survive long enough to develop spaceflight?" someone asked. Crixvel considered the question. "Because their contradictions are also their strengths. Their aggression drove them to compete, to innovate, to refuse to accept limitations. Their compassion allowed them to cooperate, to build societies, to care for their weak instead of abandoning them." She paused. "They are simultaneously the best and worst of what evolution can produce, and somehow, impossibly, the combination works." The communications officer interrupted. "Captain, We are receiving a new transmission, audio and visual. They have matched our communication frequencies. Already, Ural 9 was surprised. How did they decode our protocols so quickly? Unknown, Captain, but they are requesting a conversation. The bridge fell silent. This was the moment, first contact with humanity, the decision that would shape the future of two civilizations. Open the channel, Ural 9 ordered. The main view screen flickered and then a human appeared. It was a female, according to the biological data they had gathered. She had dark skin and short gray hair. Her eyes were tired but sharp, and she wore clothing that suggested authority. "My name is Director Sarah Chen," the human said. Her voice was calm, measured. "I represent the United Nations Space Agency. On behalf of all the people of Earth, welcome to our solar system." Ural 9 was impressed despite himself. The human showed no fear. She faced an alien vessel from an unknown civilization, and she spoke as if greeting neighbors. "Greetings, Director Chen," he replied, his translation systems converting his words. "I am Captain Ural 9 of the Galactic Federation ship Serenity of Stars. We come in peace, seeking to establish relations with your people." The human smiled. It was a strange expression, baring teeth in a way that would be threatening among most species. But the Federation's cultural database indicated this was meant as friendly. "We hoped you would say that," Director Chen said. "We've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. We have questions, so many questions." "As do we," Ural 9 admitted. "Your species is remarkable. Our scientists have been studying your world and they cannot explain how you survive." Director Chen laughed. The sound was startling, a series of rapid exhalations that the translator struggled to interpret. "Survive? Captain, we do more than survive, we thrive. Earth is our home and we love it, deadly as it is. You are aware that your planet is classified as a death world by Federation standards." "Death world?" The human seemed amused rather than offended. "I suppose it might seem that way to outsiders. We have earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, predators, diseases, and about 1,000,000 other things trying to kill us at any given moment." She shrugged, a gesture of indifference. "We've learned to live with it, adapted, overcome." Dr. Crixvell leaned forward. "Director, may I ask a question? How do you cope with the constant threat? Psychologically, I mean. Other species we have encountered from harsh worlds tend to develop extreme paranoia or aggression. But your communications indicate a society that, while imperfect, generally values cooperation and peace." Director Chen considered the question carefully. "We've learned that we're stronger together than apart. When a hurricane hits, neighbors help neighbors. When disease spreads, doctors and scientists work together across borders. When tragedy strikes, strangers become family." She paused. "We fight, yes, we always have, but we also build, we create, we dream." "You dream of the stars," Ural 9 said. He had seen the human space program. Primitive by Federation standards, but impressive given their resources and history. They had sent people to their moon, rovers to other planets, probes beyond their solar system, all driven by curiosity, by a need to know what was out there. "Always," Director Chen confirmed. "For as long as we have existed, we have looked up at the night sky and wondered, are we alone? What else is out there? And now we know." Her smile widened. "We are not alone, and we have so much to learn from each other." The captain exchanged glances with Dr. Crixvell. This was not what they had expected. Based on the Federation's previous encounters with Death World species, they had anticipated aggression, hostility, or at best, suspicious caution. But the humans seemed genuinely excited by the prospect of contact. "Director Chen," Ural 9 said, "the Federation would like to extend an invitation for formal diplomatic relations. We believe that your species could be a valuable addition to our community of worlds." "We would be honored," Chen replied. "Though I should warn you, we come with complications. We're not a unified species. We have different nations, different cultures, different beliefs. Getting us all to agree on anything is like herding cats. Cats, small predators that we keep as companions. They're notoriously independent. Yoral Nine's crystalline form flickered with confusion. You keep predators as companions. And dogs, which are descended from wolves, and horses, which could easily kill us with a kick, and birds that could peck out our eyes. Director Chen's expression was one of fond amusement. We have a complicated relationship with the other species on our planet. Dr. Crixvell was making rapid notes. Fascinating. You domesticate predators for companionship. This behavior is unknown among Federation species. We domesticate everything eventually, Chen said, including ourselves in a way. We've spent thousands of years building civilizations that control and channel our more violent impulses. It's a work in progress. The transmission continued for another hour. Information was exchanged, carefully selected details about each civilization. The humans were cautious but open, eager to learn but not so eager that they forgot to protect themselves. When the communication ended, the bridge crew sat in thoughtful silence. "Well," Captain Yorl9 said finally, "that was not what I expected." "No," Dr. Crixvell agreed. "They are even more complex than our data suggested, and I believe we have only scratched the surface." "Are they dangerous?" the security officer asked. Crixvell considered the question carefully before answering. "Extremely, but not in the way we feared. They are dangerous because they are adaptable, because they do not accept limitations, because when faced with the impossible, they simply refuse to believe it is impossible." She paused. "The Federation has never encountered a species like this. We should proceed with caution, but also with hope." "Hope?" Yorl9 asked. "If the humans can be our allies, they could change everything. They survive what should not be survivable. They adapt to anything. They never give up." Crixvell looked at the blue and green planet on the view screen. "Imagine having that determination on our side." The captain nodded slowly. "Prepare a full report for the High Council. They need to know exactly what we have found here." As his crew moved to comply, Yorl9 continued to watch Earth. Somewhere down there, billions of humans went about their lives, unaware that their entire existence had just been reported as scientifically impossible. They were born, lived, and died on a world that should have killed them before they ever evolved. And they called it home. The High Council chamber of the Galactic Federation was designed to inspire awe. Located at the heart of the station, known as Unity Prime, it could hold representatives from all 217 member species. Holographic displays showed real-time data from across the galaxy. The walls were made of transparent crystal, offering views of the stars that reminded everyone why the Federation existed. Today, however, the mood was not one of inspiration. It was one of barely contained panic. "This report cannot be accurate," declared High Counselor Thexren, her insected body clicking with agitation. "You are telling us that these humans breathe a corrosive gas, live under gravity that would crush most of us, and consume the burned flesh of other organisms for nutrition." "That is correct," Dr. Crixvell replied calmly. She stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the known galaxy, and showed no fear. 3 weeks of studying humans had apparently given her a new perspective on what constituted a dangerous situation. "They call the burned flesh cooking. They believe it makes food safer to eat." "Safer?" Another counselor, a gaseous entity known as the Voice of Mist, rippled with disturbance. "Fire is one of the most destructive forces in the universe. They deliberately expose their food to it. They also warm their dwellings with it, light their way with it, forge tools with it." Crixvell brought up images on the central display. Fire was one of the key technologies that allowed humans to spread across their world. They mastered it before they had developed any other significant technology. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. The control of fire was considered a mark of advanced civilization among most species, something developed only after basic technologies were in place. The idea of a species that had started with fire was disturbing. "Let us move past the fire," suggested Counselor Ural Prime, the elder of Captain Ural 9's species. His crystalline form was larger and more complex than his relatives, showing centuries of growth. "What concerns me more is their warfare. The reports indicate they have fought among themselves continuously for their entire recorded history." "That is accurate," Crixvel confirmed. "Humans have developed increasingly sophisticated methods of killing each other over time. They have used rocks, sharpened metals, chemical explosives, and even managed to split the fundamental building blocks of matter to create weapons of mass destruction." "Nuclear weapons," High Counselor Thexren said. "We detected them pointed at our ship." "Yes, and that is perhaps the most remarkable thing about them." Crixvel paused for effect. "They have possessed these weapons for less than 100 of their years. In that time, they have only used them twice in the same conflict. Despite numerous wars since then, despite coming close to total annihilation multiple times, they have chosen not to use them again." "Why?" the voice of Mist asked. "If they are as aggressive as you suggest, why would they restrain themselves?" "Because they are not merely aggressive. They are also capable of extraordinary restraint and foresight. They understood that using such weapons would destroy them all, so they chose not to use them." Crixvel let that sink in. "They are capable of overcoming their own nature when survival demands it." The council fell silent. This was significant. The Federation had encountered aggressive species before. Usually, such species destroyed themselves before achieving space flight. The fact that humans had managed to avoid this fate suggested something unusual about them. "Tell us about their society," Counselor Ural Prime requested. "How have they organized themselves?" Crixvel hesitated. This was where things got complicated. Humans do not have a unified government. They have divided their world into approximately 200 separate political entities called nations. Each has its own government, its own laws, its own military forces. "That sounds like chaos," Thexren observed. "It often is. They have fought wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion, and sometimes for reasons that make no sense at all to outside observers." Crixvel brought up historical footage, battles from different eras, showing the evolution of human warfare. And yet, in the past century, they have also created international organizations designed to prevent conflict. They have established laws of war, rules about what is and is not acceptable behavior even when fighting. They are constantly struggling between their violent impulses and their desire for peace. "That struggle sounds exhausting," the voice of Mist commented. "It is, but it also drives them forward. Their greatest achievements have often come from conflict, the desire to be stronger, faster, smarter than their opponents. Their exploration of space began as a competition between two of their most powerful nations." Crixvel showed images of rocket launches, astronauts on the moon, probes traveling through space. They reached for the stars because they did not want to lose to each other. Counselor Ural Prime's crystal form dimmed thoughtfully. "You paint a picture of a species at war with itself. How can they be trusted as potential allies?" "Because that war is also what makes them remarkable." Crixvel spoke with growing conviction. "They are constantly testing themselves, pushing their limits, refusing to accept what seems impossible. When their doctors could not cure diseases, they invented new medicines. When their engineers could not build bridges long enough, they invented new materials. When their scientists said they could not reach the moon, they found a way." She paused and looked around the chamber. "Consider what they have accomplished on a death world. They have built cities that can withstand earthquakes. They have developed warning systems for volcanic eruptions and tsunamis. They have created medicines that treat cancers and plagues. They have harnessed the power of rivers, wind, and even the sun itself." Most Federation species achieve spaceflight within a few thousand years of developing writing, Crixvell continued. Humans did it in roughly 5,000 years while fighting constant wars, surviving multiple mass extinction events, and rebuilding their civilizations from collapse again and again. They are stubborn beyond all reason. High Counselor Thexren made a clicking sound that the translator interpreted as concern. You speak of them with admiration, Doctor, but I must ask, are they dangerous to us? Yes, Crixvell replied without hesitation. They are perhaps the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. The chamber erupted in alarm. Council members spoke over each other, voices rising in fear and anger. Only Crixvell remained calm, waiting for the noise to subside. They are dangerous, she repeated when she could be heard again, but not necessarily to us. They are dangerous because they do not know their own limitations. They are dangerous because when they set their minds to something, they do not stop until it is accomplished or they are dead. They are dangerous because they have already survived their own death world and each other. And if we make enemies of them, Counselor Yorlprime asked quietly, then we will have made a terrible mistake. They will fight us with everything they have and everything they can invent. They will never surrender, never stop, never accept defeat. Crixvell's 4 eyes met the gaze of each council member in turn. But if we make friends of them, if we earn their loyalty and respect, then we will have the most determined, creative, and resilient allies the galaxy has ever seen. The council considered her words in silence. The choice before them was clear. Approach the humans with hostility and face an enemy unlike any they had known, or extend friendship and potentially gain something extraordinary. We will need to proceed carefully, High Counselor Thexren said finally. Full diplomatic protocols, cultural exchange programs, economic agreements. And patience, Crixvell added. Humans are slow to trust, but once trust is earned, they value it highly. They have a saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. They remember those who help them in times of difficulty. Then we shall help them, the voice of Mist declared. We shall share our knowledge, offer our trade, extend our protection. They may not accept protection, Crixvell warned. They are proud, they prefer to protect themselves. Then we shall stand beside them as equals. Counselor Yorlprime's form brightened with decision. Let the humans know that the Federation wishes to walk with them among the stars, not as masters, not as servants, but as partners in whatever the universe has in store. The vote was called, and the decision was made. The Galactic Federation would welcome humanity into its ranks. As Crixvell left the council chamber, she wondered what the humans would make of it all. They had spent their entire existence fighting for survival on a world that should have killed them. Now they would take their place among the stars, surrounded by species who could barely comprehend what they had endured. She suspected they would do what they had always done, adapt, overcome, and probably terrify everyone around them in the process. 5 years after first contact, the changes were everywhere. Ambassador Crixvell walked through the corridors of Unity Prime, her 4 eyes taking in the transformed station. What had once been a facility designed exclusively for Federation species now featured human accommodations at every turn. The gravity in certain sections had been increased to Earth-normal levels. The oxygen content in some areas had been raised. Warning signs in multiple languages cautioned non-humans to avoid these zones without proper protection. And everywhere there were humans. They had spread through Federation space with a speed that still amazed her. Traders, scientists, diplomats, artists, engineers, humans had found their way into every sector of galactic society. They adapted to each environment they encountered, modified it when they could not adapt, and generally made themselves at home in places where no one had thought to live. Ambassador Crixvell. She turned to find Dr. Marcus Chen approaching. He was the son of Director Sarah Chen, who had made first contact with the Federation and was now Secretary General of Earth's unified government. Like his mother, He had a talent for diplomacy, but his real passion was science. "Dr. Chen," she greeted him, "how are the experiments progressing?" "Better than expected." His face showed the expression humans called a grin. It had taken Crixvell months to stop being startled by that display of teeth. "We've successfully merged Velthari regeneration technology with human medical science. The first clinical trials are showing incredible results. We might be able to regrow lost limbs within the decade." "Your species already heals remarkably well," Crixvell observed. "Not well enough." The grin faded slightly. "We've always struggled with certain types of injuries, but combining what we know with what the Velthari know, we can do better. We can save more lives." This was what Crixvell found most fascinating about humans. They were never satisfied. Other species, when they achieved a certain level of comfort, tended to stabilize. They developed their technology to meet their needs and then maintained it. But humans kept pushing, kept improving, kept reaching for something better. "Walk with me," she suggested. "I am heading to the Cultural Exchange Center. They are hosting an exhibition of human art today." "Oh, I heard about that." Marcus fell into step beside her. "They're showing works from different periods of human history, everything from cave paintings to digital installations." They walked through the station, passing members of dozens of species going about their business. Crixvell noticed how many of them wore items of human design, clothing adapted from Earth fashion, jewelry featuring human artistic motifs, even technology cases in colors that humans found pleasing. Human culture had spread almost as quickly as the humans themselves. Their music played in recreation areas throughout the Federation. Their stories were translated and shared. Their foods, carefully adapted to be safe for non-human consumption, had become popular in restaurants across the galaxy. "Your species has had quite an impact on the Federation," Crixvell observed. Marcus shrugged. "We just share what we have. I think people are curious about us because we're so different." "That is one way to put it. Another way is that you are terrifying, and many species are trying to understand what makes you function so they can predict your behavior." The human laughed, that strange sound of amusement that Crixvell had finally learned to appreciate. "We're not that scary." "Dr. Chen, your people have been members of the Federation for 5 years. In that time, you have revolutionized agricultural technology, developed new medical treatments, improved faster-than-light travel by 12%, and somehow convinced the J-Rix Collective to open their borders for the first time in 1,000 years. Crixvell paused. "The J-Rix are the most isolationist species in known space. They refused all contact until a human trading vessel crashed in their territory." "That was an accident." "Yes, and instead of dying, as any other species would have on a J-Rix world, the human crew survived for 3 weeks until rescue arrived. They learned to eat the local vegetation, built shelters from native materials, and by the time they were found, they had made friends with several J-Rix younglings who were curious about them." Crixvell's skin plates rippled with what humans would recognize as amusement. "The J-Rix opened diplomatic relations specifically because they wanted to understand how your people survived. And then they discovered they enjoyed your company." Marcus seemed embarrassed by the praise. "We just did what we had to do to survive. It's not special." "That is exactly what makes it special. You do not realize how extraordinary you are." Crixvell stopped walking and faced him directly. "I have spent my career studying species from across the galaxy. None of them are like you. None of them combine your capacity for violence with your capacity for compassion. None of them are as adaptable, as persistent, as stubbornly determined to thrive no matter the circumstances." They had reached the Cultural Exchange Center. Through the entrance, Crixvell could see the exhibition, walls covered with human artwork spanning their entire history. Cave paintings next to Renaissance masterpieces, modern photographs beside abstract sculptures. "Tell me," she said, "what do you see when you look at this?" Marcus studied the display. "I see our history, our creativity. the way we've always tried to express something beyond ourselves. And what do you think other species see? He considered the question. I don't know, art, I suppose. They see survival, Crixville told him. They see a species that, despite facing constant death, took the time to create beauty. Your oldest art was made in caves while predators hunted outside. Your greatest music was composed during wars and plagues. Your most profound literature was written by people who had experienced unimaginable suffering. She gestured at the exhibition. This is not just art. This is proof that your species refuses to let hardship destroy your spirit. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I never thought of it that way. Of course you did not. It is simply who you are, but to the rest of us it is a source of constant wonder. Crixville began walking into the exhibition. Come, let me show you how your art appears to alien eyes. They moved through the displays together, Crixville pointing out what different species found compelling about each piece. The crystalline beings were drawn to the play of light in impressionist paintings. The Velthari were fascinated by the biological accuracy of anatomical drawings. The gaseous entities of the mist found something resonant in abstract expressionism. And everywhere they went, there were other visitors, members of dozens of species, all gazing at human creations with expressions of curiosity, confusion, and sometimes awe. You know, Marcus said as they paused before a painting of a sunrise over mountains, when we first learned about the Federation, a lot of people were afraid. We thought advanced aliens would look down on us, see us as primitive, maybe try to conquer us. And instead you welcomed us, respected us, wanted to learn from us as much as teach us. He shook his head. I don't think we expected that. We did not expect you either, Crixville admitted. We thought we understood what was possible in the galaxy. Then we found you, a species that survived the unsurvivable, that thrived where nothing should thrive, that looked at the stars and said, those are ours too. Every species looks at the stars. Many do, but not all of them have the courage to reach for them. Crixville studied the human beside her, this soft, fragile creature whose ancestors had crawled out of mud and somehow conquered a death world. The Federation has existed for 20,000 years. In that time, we have explored much of the galaxy. We have encountered many wonders, but I believe that in joining us, humanity will push us further than we have ever gone before. That's a lot of pressure, Marcus said with a small smile. You will handle it, you always do. They continued through the exhibition, two representatives of vastly different worlds, united by curiosity and the simple pleasure of sharing discoveries. And outside, beyond the station's crystal walls, the stars waited, full of mysteries yet to be solved, dangers yet to be faced, and wonders yet to be found. Humanity was just getting started. 20 years after first contact, the galaxy faced its greatest crisis. The void swarm came from beyond the galactic rim, from the dark spaces between stars where nothing was supposed to exist. They were not a species in any conventional sense, more like a force of nature, a hunger given form. They consumed everything in their path, ships, stations, entire worlds stripped of all life. The Federation had never faced anything like them. Their weapons seemed to have no effect. Their defenses were useless. In the first year of the invasion, 12 member species were rendered extinct, their homeworlds reduced to barren rocks. The High Council met in emergency session. The Great Chamber, once filled with the pride of galactic civilization, now echoed with fear and despair. We cannot stop them, High Counselor Thexren declared, her insectoid form trembling. Our fleets are destroyed, our technologies are useless, we have tried everything. Not everything, said a voice from the human delegation. The speaker was Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez, commander of Earth's combined forces. She was old now, her hair white, her face lined with years of experience, but her eyes were sharp and her voice was steady. Humans have a saying, she continued. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. We have been fighting the Void Swarm with conventional weapons because that is what we know. But the Void Swarm is not conventional. What do you propose? Counselor Yorlprime asked. His crystalline form was dim with exhaustion and grief. We have been studying the swarm since they appeared. Our scientists, working with researchers from every member species, have discovered something important. Vasquez activated the chamber's display systems. Data appeared, complex equations and biological analyses. The Void Swarm is not indestructible. They can be stopped, but not with weapons. If not weapons, then what? The voice of Mist rippled with confusion. Poison, Vasquez smiled grimly. The swarm consumes biological matter. That is how they spread, how they reproduce. But there is a type of biological matter they cannot process. It is toxic to them at the cellular level. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives of species she had worked with for 2 decades. Human biological matter. The council erupted in confused murmurs. High Counselor Thexren clicked for silence. Explain. Our bodies evolved on a death world, Vasquez said. We are filled with compounds that would kill most species, hormones, enzymes, bacteria. Our blood carries oxygen which corrodes organic tissue. Our immune systems are constantly at war with pathogens, producing substances designed to destroy invaders. She paused. The Void Swarm cannot consume us. When they try, it kills them. You knew this? Counselor Yorlprime asked sharply. We suspected. We confirmed it 3 months ago when a human research station was attacked. The swarm tried to consume the station and the crew. They failed. The toxins in human tissue destroyed them from within. Vasquez's expression was serious. Every researcher on that station died. They were overwhelmed by the attack, but they took thousands of swarm entities with them. The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what she was suggesting. You are proposing, the voice of Mist said slowly, to use your own people as weapons. Not people, not directly. Vasquez's voice was steady. We have developed a delivery system, bioengineered compounds based on human tissue deployed as missiles. The swarm will consume them as they consume everything, and the toxins will spread through their collective. She took a breath. Our scientists believe this could stop them, perhaps destroy them entirely. The cost? High Counselor Thexren asked. We will need volunteers, humans willing to provide the biological material needed. The process is painful and carries risks. Many will not survive. Vasquez's jaw tightened. We have already begun recruiting. The response has been overwhelming. Ambassador Crixvel, who had been silent throughout the proceedings, finally spoke. You are offering to sacrifice your own people to save the Federation. We are offering to save everyone, Vasquez corrected, including ourselves. The swarm will reach Earth eventually if they are not stopped. We are not doing this out of selflessness alone. We are doing it because it is our only chance. Her eyes were fierce, and because it is the right thing to do. The council debated. Some called the plan reckless. Others argued that there was no alternative. In the end, they voted to approve the human proposal. There was simply no other option. The Battle of the Void, as it came to be known, lasted for 3 days. Human ships, carrying their terrible cargo, drove deep into the heart of the swarm. Federation vessels protected their flanks, drawing fire, sacrificing themselves to ensure the humans reached their targets. Species that had been rivals became allies. Old grudges were forgotten in the face of extinction. And the humans did what they had always done. They adapted, they overcame, they refused to die. When the bioweapons were deployed, the swarm began to fail. The toxins spread through their collective consciousness like fire through dry grass. They tried to retreat, to flee back to the darkness between stars, but it was too late. The poison was in them, destroying them from within. The last Void Swarm entity died on the 3rd day. The galaxy was saved. In the aftermath, The Federation gathered to honor the dead. Millions had fallen, members of every species who had fought the swarm, but the human losses were proportionally highest. They had placed themselves at the center of the battle, and they had paid the price. Admiral Vasquez stood before a memorial that listed every name. Human names, Velthari names, crystalline designations, and hundreds of others, all equal in death, all heroes. Ambassador Crixvel approached her. You did something unprecedented. Your species turned your greatest curse, your death world biology, into the weapon that saved us all. It was never a curse, Vasquez replied softly. It was just who we are. Earth made us what we needed to be to survive, and when survival meant fighting for the entire galaxy, we did that too. The Federation will remember this forever. I hope so. Vasquez looked at the memorial, at the countless names. I hope they remember why it happened, not because humans are special, but because we all are. Every species in the Federation contributed something. Every one of us had a role to play. We won because we worked together. Crixvel considered her words. When we first encountered your species, our scientists could not explain how you survived your death world. We thought it was impossible. And now I think we had the question wrong. Crixvel turned to face the memorial, standing beside the human admiral. It was never about how you survived. It was about why. You survived because you refused to accept any other option. And when the galaxy needed that stubbornness, that determination, that absolute refusal to give up, you shared it with all of us. Vasquez smiled, that strange human expression that had become familiar across the Federation. We just did what we had to do. Yes, and that is exactly why you are remarkable. They stood together in silence, two representatives of different worlds, united by loss and victory and hope. Behind them, the memorial gleamed in the starlight, a permanent record of those who had given everything so that others might live. And far away, on a blue and green planet that should have killed everything that lived on it, humans continued to do what they had always done. They loved, they fought, they created, they dreamed of the stars. They survived. Not because they were supposed to, not because it was easy, but because that was who they were, the children of a death world, impossible and unstoppable, reaching always for something more. The Federation scientists had been right all along. They could not explain how humans survived Earth. Some things, it turned out, were beyond explanation. They simply were.